The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Just waiting for Kev. Waiting for Kev. Waiting for Kev. Waiting for Kev. Oh! Look who's here! It's Kev!
Well, you could have tidied up.
I thought I'd leave it in the state you left it last time, about 3 months ago.
God, we got to do this bloody podcast again now. Sat in the car listening to my records, lovely, and now I've got to do this thing.
You got a record player in the car? That doesn't come standard with my gear. How does the needle stay on the vinyl? That must be a bit jumpy.
I am only joking, of course.
Kev is back in town, look. Oh, it's so nice to have you back.
Yes, it is nice to be here.
One of the dangers, though, of Kev being here is it usually is just before another lockdown.
Yeah, that's what happened last time, wasn't it? Yeah.
So he'll be here a couple of weeks, then Boris is going to shut us all down again.
The FujiCast.
Or he'll do something about the Premier League teams, although he's done it now, hasn't he?
He's done it, that's
He's
all
done
over.
it. That's all done.
A flash in the pan.
Done and dusted last week. Well, welcome back to Kev to the FujiCast studio. It's lovely to have you here, Kev. But it is
very
a bit,
nice to be back.
A bit strange not doing it on a Friday or Thursday afternoon with a couple of beers in hand.
I know, that's the only downside. You know, it's like, maybe even non-alcoholic beer we could do.
I suppose so. I don't keep any of that sort of stuff here.
Yeah, that's a bit early for
I've
that.
got some cleaning fluid.
That'll do. Just give me a straw.
Right, you and your questions from our electronic mailbag, and of course also through the FujiCast private Facebook group, which Kev's still going to be in charge of. So he's got his laptop one side. Open up your laptop. Cue, hint. And I've got my desktop. That you're welcome to become a part of the Facebook group, or you can send your mails through still, of course, to click@fujicast.co.uk. If you're not a Fujifilm shooter, as we say every single week, do not worry. You'll get over it soon, and it's a big community, and whatever flavour you shoot, you're very, very welcome. Thank you to those of our friends who support us every single week on Patreon. Do we have any bump to the fronts today, or did we do that? Did we do that last week? I think we did that last week, didn't we?
I think we did, yeah.
Patreon mentions. We might have a bump to the front. I'll have a look. But Patreon mentions, another week, maybe.
Another week for that.
Kev's Book of the Week. One of them, actually, is Shiny, Shiny New.
Yes, but the one we're going to talk about this week has been sent in by Christopher O'Sullivan, who is a listener of the show. The year we stood still. The year the world stood still. Have a guess what it's about.
COVID.
Yeah. It's very nice, actually, but we'll talk about that later.
Appropriately, today's micro guest is Dan Milner. I say micro because it's more a series of thoughts about self-publishing to match with Chris O'Sullivan's appearance within the book review with Kev. So we thought we thought the two would match. Blurb Books ambassador, who is called a creative evangelist in their organisation. He has a thing today to say about printing and social media. I didn't do a world keep still. Oh, you're looking at the holes in the desk.
I'm sure there used to be something that I was worried about hitting in those holes before.
Yeah, it's this. It's the this thing.
You've taken it out.
I took it out so you didn't have to keep bumping into it. I took it out last week. I'm not sure it'll go back in again. You don't have to cover the holes. It's not. It's a beautiful desk I have, and what I've done gradually over the last year is drill holes in it. which holds various things, clamps for cameras and stuff.
It'd be quite handy cable management, that.
It would be. Yeah. Just don't ever let me anywhere near your kitchen. I'll drill a hole in the top or something.
Can you fix a leaky tap?
No, can't do stuff like that.
Good.
That's far too much of a pink job. My Sam could do it, and your Gemma definitely could do it.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
So, who's going to start then, you or me?
I'll go first.
Go on then.
Why not? So as tradition now has it, tradition that is, I will start with the latest question on the Facebook group. It's quite a long one. Daniel Parks. Hi Neil, hi Kev. Apologies if you've already covered this topic. I'm considerably far behind on my FujiCasts. As a general rule of thumb, I am a black and white photographer. People now associate me with it. Ooh, get you. Almost expect it.
Get you.
Get you. Yeah. And I've certainly reached a stage where I feel there is a consistency.
Yeah.
to my black and white edits. And there is. I love your black and white work, Daniel. It's definitely my comfort zone. But we all know the famous saying involving comfort zones. What's the famous saying involving comfort zones?
I don't know. What is the famous?
Don't-
Get out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, wasn't that a Sabrina song? Get out of your comfort zone.
No, that was
we clearly don't know.
Billy Ocean, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Billy Ocean.
I don't know.
Get out of your comfort zone. I'm finding myself.
I like his black and whites too.
Yeah.
I love his black and whites.
Yeah, and his seascapes, amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
I'm finding myself drawn more and more to editing in colour. Maybe it's the turn of the weather.
Yeah.
When I do edit in colour, I'm too anxious to overcook the image. I'm conscious that you can affect things like skin tone, etc. For that very reason, I tend to slightly bump up the vibrancy and clarity.
Right.
But that's about it. Maybe a little exposure if the light was challenging at the time. The point is, I don't want to over manipulate the image to a point where it looks cartoony and unnatural. However, ... When I look at established wedding photographers who edit in colour, I can see a consistent, unique style, and it's clear just how important that consistency is to their work. They obviously pride themselves on the fact that you can tell it's one of their photos, in air quotes. I understand how to do this with black and white, but I wouldn't know where to start with colour. I imagine it has a lot to do with film simulations, presets, recipes. I don't really know the difference between a preset and a recipe, and I always wonder how presets stand up against a variety of colours that you might encounter. What advice would you give someone who is about to embark on a journey to discover their style in colour editing? It would be nice to hear from other photographers as well, but I'm especially interested in both of your opinions, given your experience in photography. Many thanks from a sunny Birmingham.
That'll be Birmingham, Alabama then, will it?
That was...
It can't be Birmingham Midlands.
Everything's legal in Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So, well...
Well, I mean, colour, I don't like it to be too affected. I generally try to keep it as natural as I can. I don't really... So I've experimented a bit, and I have particularly since actually leaving the Canon sphere initially to go to the Fuji sphere. I played a lot more with some presets. One from the American photographer, cracking photographer, just became a Fuji film ambassador over there.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of his name. He has a great set of presets. We'll link to him.
Yeah, I know what you mean as well.
Reggie Ballesteros. That was it. Reggie Ballesteros. His stuff I like, and it worked really well, particularly when I was shooting with the tail end of the X Pro 2s before the XT3s. Like his presets, but generally, no. I try to steer clear of colour pictures taking on weird, odd hues. I think that's the way. I'm probably far less. No, I know I'm far less contrasty when I work in colour to when I work in black and white. That's for sure. But I like the colours to be deep. I do like deep colours.
Yeah, I think often it comes down to. What you're photographing, and one of the mistakes a lot of people make is that if they're going to be throwing presets or recipes or that kind of, I'll answer the question about the difference between recipes and presets in a second, is they tend to assume that it's a one-click thing and then everything is fixed, and that is true, should be true for a good preset if the exposure is good. And the colours are right and white balance is right and everything.
But that's your problem, because colours are never right. You're in a mix of sodium lighting with fluoros, with natural light. Particularly, I tell you what, if he's going into weddings, I mean that's your. I'll throw the recipe in. Recipe for disaster with all the different lighting conditions.
Yeah, colour is much more tricky for sure. But make sure that the exposure is corrected and certainly white balance first.
Yeah.
And what you also have in the mix is different people's skin tones. And certainly at weddings you're going to have different people's skin tones in one picture. So you are going to end up kind of looking at that and thinking, I don't know, one is right, one is wrong. But also at the same time, at the end of the day, if it's 400 pictures that you're editing, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to edit all of those in perfect colour at a wedding. It's just too hard. You'll be there for months and months and months. So the recipes, presets, pretty much the same thing. I mean, I tend to use the terminology recipes for in-camera settings. So the JPEG settings that you set in the camera, shadows, highlights, white balance shift, grain, noise, all of that kind of stuff is what I refer to as recipes. Presets are something that you either build yourself in Lightroom or Capture One, or on One Raw, all of those things, or you purchase, and they're ones that you kind of apply and then you tweak to your content. But yeah, color is harder. Simple as that. It is harder than black and white, and the reason why I think most people like more contrast in their black and white is because black and white ultimately is the separation between light and shade. And you have to be able to see that. You see a lot of very washed out, insipid black and white images.
I used to call them salad of grey.
Yeah, salad of grey. Sometimes it works in some very rare circumstances, but generally, people want to see a bit of contrast in those black and whites. Color more tricky for sure, but just kind of work with it. And if you can build your own look, going back to the point about other photographers having their own look and style, that will probably be either a preset they've got or they've built their own style, and stick with it. That's the thing. Don't kind of have one wedding with different looks and feels for the color stuff, especially. Stick with one look.
And I know photographers like to have this look thing with color, and for some time quite popular was the almost crushed blacks, almost a little bit washed out look. And I've been to friends' houses and they've commented in the past, have a look at my photos, something doesn't look quite right. And you looked at it and I've thought, wow, it's a cracking photo, lovely compositions and stuff. And they say, but look at the colour. So bear in mind that your audience, your clients, are unlikely to understand crushed blacks, washed out look, stuff that you do in Lightroom to the same degree. And that colour is normal colour. The way we see is the way we see. And so don't surprise them too much. One from Michael Marin. Hello, Neil. Hello, Kev. Mondays aren't the same if I haven't listened to the podcast. Question. I find when I'm asked to take pictures at a family activity or watching a child doing something memorable, it's difficult to emotionally experience the event if I'm also trying to take the pictures. Do you have any thoughts about how to capture the moment while still being in the moment? Is this the kind of situ where P mode or its Fujifilm equivalent would be in order? From Mike, who's in Oakville, Ontario, in Canada. X100F enthusiast. It's very difficult to do the two, isn't it? I think you do it really, really well. Your holiday pictures certainly show that.
Yeah, I think, whenever if I'm with my family on holiday, or we've gone somewhere, or, wherever we've gone, I don't take the camera with a view to making art. No. I take the camera with a view to just making memories of the day. And so, they really are just snapshots.
But do you mean to say that all those lovely shots you take, you don't really think at all about, oh, that's lovely, that shadow you don't think of...
Yeah, I do.
I'm sure you do.
I do, yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm kind of position myself accordingly, get on with it, and then, you're there, you're in the moment, you're part of it. The stuff with the kids around the swimming pool and everything. I'm there in my trunks as well, put the camera down, jump in. It's you do need to be a little bit careful that you don't always right. So this is what I'll say about this. Think about what the purpose of these pictures are. So if the purpose of these pictures ultimately are to be family memories, then it's important that you look at the photo taking element of it from that point of view. If you're thinking, this is going to get me loads of likes on Instagram, then you will start stepping out of the moment. You'll start, you'll start missing out on the stuff that's going on, thinking a little bit ahead. Now, there's a crossover between those two things, because some people will use their family, as I did, and you did to a certain extent, will use the family photos as a marketing element. So, that there's an element of that. But ultimately, if we go to Barry Island tomorrow, unlikely that I'm ever going to be sticking those pictures on internet or anything like that. So it will just be a case of family snapshots, and yes, of course I want to make them nice, and if consequently I get one that I'm really proud of, then perhaps it would get pushed forward. But it would, you definitely need to think about the family. The question, I think you mentioned the question about not being in the pictures yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what mobile phones are for, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's what Rosa's got a mobile phone, Gemma's got a mobile phone.
I think it's a scrapbook of life, isn't it? Even if it doesn't matter whether you're taking your X100 or you're taking your iPhone or smartphone, whatever flavour. Think of it as think of these as your scrapbook pictures, really. That's what they are. I mean, we
don't overthink it.
Yeah, our yearly annuals that we make. I say we loosely, that Sam makes. The kids. Well, we all get them out every so often. We get those books out and have a look through them. Most of those pictures are actually iPhone pictures. I don't know. You don't. Nothing. It doesn't all have to be super artistic, does it?
No, absolutely not. You know, it does. Of course, it depends a little bit on what your end goal is. But yeah, for the family stuff, I'm working on the assumption that this is just family.
Yeah.
Standard kind of memories. Just don't overthink it. Yeah. P mode helps. Yeah, absolutely. I shoot a lot of the stuff in.
The ultimate P mode, of course, is on your iPhone, or your
P mode.
Smartphone, isn't it? Really, that's all P.
Yeah.
Right. This very quickly before you read your question. Zishan Khan sent in a mail. I am 100 just on Boxgate, just to keep it ticking. I am 100% with Kev on this nonsense. Boxes are meant to be recycled or thrown out immediately. In fact, if I'm buying in store, then I'll ask the salesperson to immediately dispose of the boxes. I hate boxes.
I'm giving up.
It's quite funny that it's still rolling. I like it.
Yeah.
But Zishan, you shouldn't do that. Somebody has lovingly put their heart and soul into creating that box. It is a work of art.
Right. I've got a question from Lev.
Hold on a minute, Kev. There's a box.
When I was plugging my laptop in, I spied another box under your table.
Oh, there's another one. Here, look. There's a second one. I reckon I could find... Look, hold on. You should take a picture of this, Kev.
I am going to... I'll turn my phone off now.
There are 3 boxes. They're all from Fujifilm. They're all refurbs. This one, there's 2 XH1s there. Look at that.
Oh, waste of space.
Kev, they're almost as tall as me. Look.
Oh, my Lord.
I'm going to pose. Posing now. I'll put those down there. There we go.
You look like Uncle Albert.
Do you want to take a box home with you?
No.
There's a free one here.
Not unless it's got fish and chips in it.
Go on, yours.
Right, so Lev Pertsov, who is now, he literally posted this 3 minutes ago. So he's because of my imbalance that I have to go to the bottom of the thread. Do you think Fuji will ever open up its X-mount lens protocol to allow third-party manufacturers to make autofocus lenses for Fuji cameras?
Ooh.
Well, they have done.
Well, there's one, isn't there, already?
Yeah, they have done.
Which is the one?
It's Viltrox.
Ah, yes, Viltrox.
Yeah, I think there's rumours of Tamron and various other things like that going on. So yeah, I think whether they've actually opened it up or whether they've just figured it out, who knows? But yes, you can get autofocus third-party lenses.
What one have you got? Have you got the 85mm? Or it's the first one that's come up on my screen here.
That's the one I've got. Yeah,
that's nice. Look at that, 1.4, 85mm,
85 1.4,
321 quid.
Well, that's the Mark II. So they, in fairness, they sent it to me, but it was the original one. Which did have a problem. I never had a problem with it, but it did have a problem. Apparently, one of the focus things fell off or something. But I thought it was a fantastic little lens.
I haven't tried a Viltrox, so I have no idea. So I don't know of the quality of it, or the speed, or the lens itself.
The quality was great, very well made.
Right.
I didn't like the. It's autofocus, but I still didn't like the focus mechanism. The focus ring itself was very, very soft. Wasn't dampened very much.
Okay.
Damped. But yeah, I mean, you know what? The quality wasn't quite the same as, sharpness of the Fujifilm lenses, but it's like a third of the price.
Yeah. All right, here's one from Patreon. Steve McClanahan. Yes, it is. Hi, guys. Yada, yada, yada. As you get closer, knock on wood, he says in brackets, to photographing/recording your first weddings in quite a while, are you concerned at all that you might be a little out of practice? If not, what have you been doing to prepare for your respective big days? Well, we're not getting married, not the two of us. Oh, you don't mean that? Thanks and love the show. From Steve McClanahan, an empty Fuji box keeper. You'd like this one down here then, Steve. I'll send it to you. Do you feel out of practice? Do you feel like you're going to be worrying a little bit when you first lift that eyepiece to your eye?
I think I'll have the same worries as I always do, and that's whether I've got the right day, gone to the right house, got the right woman. Which once I did get completely.
You never got that wrong, did you?
I did the whole bridal prep for a bridesmaid once.
You did not.
Yeah.
Have we talked about that?
Yeah.
I would have remembered that.
We did.
God,
I did.
Kev.
Well, they looked very similar.
What did you say as you backed out the door? See you later, guys.
Yeah. See you when you walk up the aisle. Oh no, you won't see me. You'll see Charlotte. She's next door. What?
When you turned up to the correct bride, did she wonder where you'd been?
I didn't turn up to the bride. I didn't do bridal prep for her in the end.
Oh, you didn't do any?
No, I didn't have time. It was like walking down the aisle thing.
So what did you say? What was your excuse?
I can't remember how the conversation went after that. I think I just
Bit frosty.
stuck my head in the ground and hope for the best. But yeah, so I don't think I'll have worries about actually shooting. I think I need to find all my batteries and memory cards, things like that.
Right.
Although I've been doing a little bit in the studio now, so I've dug out a couple of them. But I think.
But you've been taking photos out and about. I mean, I've been doing plenty of pictures on my walks, and I don't feel. I think it'd be like riding a bike. Straight back in.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think it'll be an issue. I haven't been taking anywhere near as many pictures as you, for sure, because you do your Friday photo walk stuff. But I think. You know what? I think if there is a problem or if there is a challenge or something I'm going to kind of keep my wits about me will be the camera settings, again, because traditionally all my cameras are all set up exactly the same. I know them instinctively. Yeah. Like my muscle memory is reactionary. And over this time, a lot of the cameras that I haven't used will have reset themselves. CMOS battery will need recharging. So I'll need to make sure that I've got my
God, how many cameras do you have,
backups?
I don't have that many that I've been able to use them all.
No, well, I've got like my X Pro. I haven't used my X Pro 3s since my last wedding.
Oh, God, really?
If I've been shooting with anything, it's been my X100V and occasionally the GFX in the studio stuff, but that's it. So, yeah, all the settings will have changed. Things like making sure that the dual card slots are set to backup because the default is continuous. Things like that, that's one thing I'll need to make sure that the dates are synced.
How long can you leave a camera before you need to do all this?
Well, all cameras are all digital cameras are the same. They have inside them, they have a little CMOS battery, which memorizes things like the date, the time, the settings. So when you change the battery, it has to store that information somewhere, and that CMOS battery gets its charge from the battery in the camera. Okay, over time. Yeah, it's a little bit like a car battery. Yeah. So if you do not charge, or if you keep a dead battery in a camera for, I don't know, it depends on the camera, it varies by camera, but the GFX usually about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, not long.
No. X series maybe you probably get 4, 5, 6 weeks out of it.
But if you turn your camera on and the date is correct and the time is correct, that means the CMOS has done its job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes you see, people like switch a camera on for the first time in a long time, and then it says, you've got to reset. Everything's reset to the original, and that's purely because the CMOS the CMOS battery hasn't been charged. That's my main worry.
I've heard photographers say that they're a little bit concerned about how they'll be around people. How do you feel about that?
I'm just going to lick them all.
Kev. You can't do that. You've not had your injection yet. The moment you've had your injection, then you can lick the handrails at Reading Station. Or even you can even do that in Swindon Station. You'll be all right. But no, and seriously, I have thought a little bit about this. I've thought, going back in again, I haven't done a wedding since would have been December, and that was a really small one. The last large-ish one wasn't really large then, because we still had last June, didn't we still have some sort of rule on the amount of numbers? We did, wasn't it? 30 or something was the most.
Yeah,
I think it was 30. I think
it was 15, but some people floated the rules. I think it might have been 30, but anyway, I'm sure there was.
But even then, that would have been the largest. So I'd have to go right back to February 2020, and actually the Swiss one we did probably was the last big wedding.
Yeah, I had one more after that managed to squeak in by the seat of its pants. And then I also did one tiny one, a friend of mine, and that was in between the two and three lockdowns, September, October time, I can't remember. But so you're right. People,
it felt awkward with the masks going in, obviously, to the bridal preps, which you have to obviously observe the rules and the law, and that feels all a bit weird when you're dealing with clients. I still haven't gotten used to. Not that I've done a lot of client work, but I still haven't gotten used to that in the times that I have done it.
Yeah,
just that they're I suppose the COVID concerns would be the keeping to the rules, observing the rules, making sure people feel comfortable. That's the only thing I feel uncomfortable about.
Yeah, of course, but as things are going in this country, at least 21st of June, there will be no rules. So they say. And that's when I'm going to start licking people in the street.
Okay, we're going to have to do something. Have to do something about you. Now, as you know, I'm a vaccinator, so I've got some here.
You're going to jab me?
Bare your arm.
Jab.
You wouldn't trust me to do that, would you?
Oh, well, it might be you, because I'm booked in Reading.
Yeah, you're in Medeski, so I could be there for your second one.
For my second one.
Bring that one my way. I'm ready for it. Ask him to strip off.
Bring that massive needle.
Yeah, they do have different sized needles for different arms, you know.
Do they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Extra size of Kev. No. You've done well. It's me that's become a little bit larger during these times. We should probably hear from this week's guest. Actually, it's more a series of thoughts today than a guest, although Dan Milner's still a guest, as we start to talk more about self-publishing ahead of our book review, which is a self-published project, which Kev will talk more about in a moment. Today, Dan the Blurb Creative Evangelist. Fujifilm have ex-photographers, Blurb have a creative evangelist. As we ask you the question, do you have a self-publishing project you've produced or self-publishing projects that you're working on? Because we'd be interested to hear about them. And we thought it would be a good idea to hear from a man whose job it is to say, forget about the ones and zeros, bring it alive in print. He also has a few thoughts about social media. Never shy and retiring is Dan, which may also start a conversation. I talked with Dan nearly a year ago on Photography Daily, but with this subject today, we thought it was time to do a remix of thoughts to begin the conversation on self-publishing. I started out by asking Dan if he's always been a committed books and print man.
Oh yeah, I was a believer in print from going back to basically the late 80s when I processed my first roll of film, made prints in the darkroom. I think that's a pretty common story with photographers watching an image come up in the developer and you're like, okay, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. But the reason I turned to print, sort of what I would call modern style printing, was making a trip to New York in the early 90s. So basically my first trip to New York as a photographer, where I went to meet editors, agents, art buyers, anybody that would talk to me. And I had another photographer who was much better than me, who had been in the industry for a long time. He made the connections for me. And so I made this trip to New York. I was clueless. I had a terrible portfolio. But I realized leaving that trip that I needed and wanted to make my own publications, because I just felt it was the best way to deliver the kind of work that I was trying to deliver. I was working in essay form. I was telling stories with cameras, with images, and not shooting singles. And I thought, I kind of need my own magazine. And that's what got me started. And the benefit from doing so, from creating the first magazine, was so overwhelmingly positive. And just crazy stuff happened in comparison to what would happen today. Just one example, I did this. I had enough money to make 10 copies of my first magazine, which was in 1995. And I basically mailed them out in the snail mail to about 10 different people that I really wanted to work for, but I thought they would never hire me. And one of them was the National Geographic. And I remember that the photo editor at the time was a guy named Kent Koberstein. And he wrote me a handwritten full-page letter about my portfolio that they shipped back to me. And it was kind of worn out, which was a good sign to me that more than one person had looked at it. And this handwritten letter saying, we've never seen anything like this. How did you make this? This is a great project. And then gave me some tips about photography, that you don't need to travel. You can do work in your own backyard, that kind of thing. Susan Meiselas from Magnum was another person that I mailed one to. She wrote me a letter and sent it back. And I've encountered her a few times over the years. I have a ton of respect for her.
Yeah.
But I realized that at the high levels of photography, even still today, print is considered in a very different way. And it just makes you better. It makes you think about your work in different ways. And so when Blurb came along, it was the perfect fit. It just was something I immediately tucked under my sort of umbrella of my business and just began to use it in every single way possible. And I still feel that same way almost 11 years later.
It's so warming to hear somebody talk in an analog fashion. I'm talking about your writing here. And in your biog, the words non-believer in social media scream out fairly sharply, Dan. Is it possible to have such an adverse reaction to platforms like Facebook or Instagram? I mean, I know you feel that they've damaged the way we interact, but you could argue, particularly at times like this, they've shown better colours.
I am not a fan of these networks. I've done a fairly extensive amount of research in addition to all of the public knowledge that we know. But the thing about social that really got the ball rolling for me in terms of moving away from it as fast as possible was not only the idea that what these parent companies are doing and what they've already done and what they're responsible for, the just destructiveness was. In addition to that, I saw what it was doing to me. I felt what it was doing to me, and I didn't like it at all. And so 6 years ago, I deleted all my networks except for Twitter, because at the time, Blurb had asked me to keep Twitter. And I said, I don't want to be a jerk. If they want me to keep Twitter, not a problem. But that was 6 years ago. And, Twitter was at a different level of importance at the time. And not that it's still, people aren't still using it. But now, of course, Facebook and IG have taken over like crazy. But, there's a flip side to that. If you're seeing the positivity in the current zone, because there's something I've been sort of mulling over based on a couple of things that have happened this week, which is the highest trafficked post on Facebook this week is a propaganda film called Plandemic that was viewed by something like 22 million people in the United States.
Right.
And my question is, and many of those people are on Instagram, is how many cases of COVID are based on the pressures of social media, of people seeing a propaganda film, not understanding its propaganda, and saying, okay, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to social distance. I'm not going to stay at home. I'm going to a party because I'm watching influencers on Instagram who are not in quarantine, who are not wearing masks, who are out and doing stuff. And I had a conversation with someone 2 days ago that said to me, I know I'm supposed to be at home, but I'm looking at Instagram influencers on the beach, and at the same time I'm getting ads for cheap airfare to beach destinations, and it's really hard for me to stay at home because I feel like I'm missing out. That if these influencers are out there, then why aren't I?
It's not.
And I think to me it's like I watched Instagram destroy what I kind of saw, and Facebook was what got it started, but IG was probably the most perfect weapon I've ever seen. I saw what it did to professional photographers, their work, their mindset. And I mean, the stories I have heard from photographers about basically what I would call Instagram addiction is just people think I'm making it up. And it's, it's a legitimate dopamine cortisol, injection. We know the science behind the networks. We know they were built to exploit human vulnerability. And so all I can tell you is that when I quit the networks, I physically detoxed for multiple weeks, physically detoxed. And then once I came out of the detox, I turned around and looked sort of back at my life on social media. And I said, I will never, ever do that again. And I'm so much happier and just more productive, more focused. And the work I'm producing is better than it was before.
Dan Milner, who first appeared in the Photography Daily Show nearly a year ago, talking about all manner of stuff, but with our newfound interest on the FujiCast, on your self-publishing projects, which we're going to talk about in the next 10 minutes or so, we thought he'd be a perfect character to start the ball rolling. As we head, in the Northern Hemisphere anyway, into the summer months, we're going to start a summer of love with Fujifilm brand ambassadors too, the ex-photographers, as we find out in a series of chats what makes them tick and how they became involved with Fujifilm. Kev and I will be talking to some of those behind the lens. This week, after you have finished here, join me at Photography Daily for two cracking stories. Rolf Smith is my Monday guest today, a National Geo photographer and features writer who has had to curtail his travels for the last year. but has found there's a project on his doorstep. It just involves him being up with the sparrows and out on his bike in all weathers.
I had really wanted to get this stretch of lane with some huge old oaks in heavy frost.
Yeah.
And there was a morning when it was about -5, and I rode by starlight about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half to get to this place.
Rolf talks more about what he photographs, how he photographs, and why we should think about what's around us being story-worthy. He's also been featured by the New York Times, who are fascinated about this quiet photo story. Then Wednesday, we're heading into jail with Robert Gumpert, an American photojournalist who for 13 years managed to get permission to photograph and audio record inmates, who saw Robert, in the end, as a safe pair of hands with their stories, hundreds of them. We're going to talk about his picture making, his portrait taking, how he even got this project off the ground, but we're also going to listen to those he made portraits of. And just to be a tad highbrow for a moment, it was Dostoevsky who said a society should be judged not by how it treats its outstanding citizens, but how it treats its criminals. And here's one of Robert's photo portrait subjects, Dwayne Barrow, on exactly that.
It's about the way you treat us while we here. It's not about what we here for or how long we gonna be. It's dehumanizing.
My brother comes to visit me like once. Well, he only came to see me once, but that's how I find out the news. And he's trying to get married this month. I'm gonna miss it probably.
I wish I was outside. All my people and all the things that I hold dear are outside.
And for patrons of the show, Tuesday's edition, we're going to be looking at making sound recordings to do what Robert has done with your own stories. All about sound, prior to the interview which airs Wednesday. Photography Daily is on all podcast player apps and online at photographydaily.show. Right, back to your questions. Kev's going first from the Facebook group.
This is from Sue Sawyer. This is quite a while ago she posted this, but actually it's still relevant. She says, "Hello, boys."
That sounded very Welsh.
Well, maybe she's from Wales too.
Oh. This is the way you said it. Hello, boys.
Hello, boys. I desperately tried to think of something to say to that, but I can't. So I'm just going to crack on. I see Fujifilm have a new lens release next month, the 70-300.
Oh, yes.
With lots of letters after its name. Do I need it? Question mark. I have the lesser 55-200, which I love, but should I upgrade? Have you had a sneak peek? I can think of a few reasons why I should get it tonight. Bearing in mind this was 7 weeks ago. There's a full moon shooting it with the current kit lens.
Oh, yes.
It's hopeless.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just want a little bit more reach.
I think you just talked yourself into it. I love it when a new lens comes out and immediately gas hits. You say, "Do I need it? Just talk me into it, would you, Kev?"
Yeah, I love to shoot coastal storms. So weather sealing would be an advantage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
coastal storms. That sounds ace, doesn't it?
It does. There are people that make their living doing that.
Yeah. Well, we don't get. They're one of the things I hate about the UK.
You do in West Wales. There's a lot of coastal storms.
Yeah, but they're not. I mean, like UK for weather is not. It's a little bit damp and drizzly most of the time. Yes, you're right on the extremes, but I feel like when I'm old enough, when I've grown up and paid off my bounce back loan, I'm going to move to like the Outer Hebrides or Shetland Isles or somewhere like that. I'd like to live on a rock.
I could see you in a little hut with that jumper, actually, funny enough.
Yeah,
with your fluffy thing.
Yeah, my mate Gareth, we call him the Pink Flash because he whizzes by on his bike dressed in pink lycra.
All your mates have nicknames.
The Pink Flash. He came out. He stopped his bike the other day, put his brakes on, squealed up the high street. Yeah. He said, "Oi, Mullins, you look like a teddy bear. Take that off." And then whizzed off on his bike again.
It is a little bit teddy bearish. Yeah, but lovable Mullins. Cuddly Mullins.
Right, we better answer Sue's question.
Yeah, well, I think that reach, I often thought actually the most reach I've ever had was 56 because I got rid of my 50-140 thinking I'd never use it, and then instantly I needed it and had to borrow yours.
Yes, I have that, and I only keep that really for the occasions I do sports photography.
Yeah, you never take it to a wedding.
No.
56 is the only thing I took to a wedding.
Yeah,
at the longest end.
Yeah, me too. Although I'm still relatively interested in that 90mm. But I don't really have a need for it. I'm going to get the 18mm 1.4 before I think about anything else. Yeah. But the 70-300 is, I'm just looking at it now. I've not seen it, not touched it. Looks like a fairly standard Fujifilm lens, premium ones. So those lovely letters. I love the way camera manufacturers, and all of them make up the most sexy names for their lenses. This is the XF 70 to 300 millimeter f4 to 5.6 RLM-OIS-WR.
What do all those letters mean? We've got image stabilization there.
Linear motor.
Linear motor, yeah.
R is like the kind of premium, if you like.
OBE, it won something.
OBE, MFI, FBI. So it's weather resistant. It's it will be one of the, because it's with the new lens motors, the linear motor, it will be very fast.
Yes.
Says here it's got 5.5 stops of optical image stabilization, so that will be useful certainly for the lunar stuff and the storms.
When you found one,
when we found one, will it be better than the 50? Don't know.
To 140.
50 to 140 pass. Don't know. Depends what you need, really.
What's the cost difference in this? Do you know?
70 to 300 is still on back order at the minute by the looks of it. I'm looking at MPB now, £729,
right,
which will be about $150 US.
Okay, it's getting less each week.
Yeah, that's because our currency rate is in the.
It's all right. We're doing deals with the world, aren't we, Boris? No.
Right. Okay. So I'm looking for the 50 to 140 it's quite a substantial difference here. £1,295, $10 US.
This is the deal breaker, though, isn't it? It really is. Who's trying to get hold of you? Is that your mum again?
It's probably the pink flash.
But it is. Oi, Mullins. But you're right. There is a big difference there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a big difference.
Wow.
But then, the 50 to 140 has only got 5 letters after its name, whereas the 70 to 300 has got 1, 2, 3,
It's all about
4,
the letters.
5, 6, 7,
all about
8 letters after its name.
Yeah.
What are you going to pick? That's the thing. I mean, ultimately, f4 to 5.6 compared to f2.8
It's the light you're losing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That's what you're paying your money for.
So the 50 to 140 is a 2.8 fixed
What's the
aperture.
difference in size? Are they're very different, aren't they?
I'm just looking at the what's in the box section, shuddering.
It would say so on the box.
Yeah.
Hang
on, specifications.
If only you'd not thrown the box away, you'd know.
Specifications, right, here we go. Size of the 50 to 140, let's just do weight, because that's easier. 995 grams.
That's the 50 to 140.
That's 50 to 140.
So best part for kilo.
The 70 to 300 is 70 to 300. Specification is weight 580.
Oh, it's quite a difference as well.
Half size, yeah.
Half.
Yeah, because that the elements in the fixed prime in the fixed lens, fixed aperture lens, will be heavier and bigger.
David Swales. Hi Kev, hi Neil. I've been meaning to send a question in for so long, but finally got round to doing it today. My question is, if you could I like these go back in history moment questions. If you could go back to any moment in history and be the assistant for any famous or non-famous photographer as they capture a particular story, who would you choose? I myself would like to take the risk of being sworn at and be the assistant to David Bailey for his iconic 62 Vogue shoot in New York. Thank you to both of you to what you do with the show. I started listening in February last year from episode 1, and you definitely got me through the first lockdown. Plenty of episodes to listen to during my daily commute as a product photographer. Okay. Many thanks, David Swales. I thought I'd heard of David Swales. I know of David Swales. Of course I do. Who would you choose, Kev?
I don't know. I'm thinking now. I've got my thinking face on.
Was that your thinking face?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you needed the loo.
It's very similar.
Sorry. Oh, please don't be so base, Neil.
Who? You go first. What I think.
Well, I'm going to choose... because my memory is very limited, obviously, I'm going to choose somebody who was a guest on last week's Photography Daily. I'm going to choose Albert Watson. I'd like to have been there on the shoot, and we talked about it. Well, there could be one of the two, actually. It could be the Alfred Hitchcock one with a dead goose, which would have been quite funny. Because apparently Hitchcock picked up the goose. Do you know the shot? Are you familiar with the shot?
Yes, vaguely.
Hitchcock in a dinner jacket holding up a goose.
Yes.
Which he did for a... what was the magazine? He did for a home sort of magazine.
Yeah.
And it was all... Who knew that he was actually a very, very good chef? So he was going to do for the holiday edition, he was going to do How to Cook a Goose. And that was the comedy, really. Hitchcock cooks his goose sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he held up this goose and apparently started goosing around with it, if you forgive the term. He made the goose look at him and he looked at the goose. I think they were doing voices or something like that. But that would have been a fun shoot to have been on. Or the one when he had the pictures with Jagger, which I also focused on, where he did the morphed shot of Jagger's face into a cat.
Yeah,
which was all done as a double exposure. Very clever. Very,
Yeah,
He says he thought of that on the fly.
Yeah. I you know what? I think I'm going to go to the Jim Marshall picture of Johnny Cash flipping the bird.
There's a good story about that, isn't there?
It's relatively interesting, although it's somewhat disappointing at the same time.
Oh, is it?
Because the picture is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
I love it, and I'm a big Johnny Cash fan. Yeah. But when you first see that picture, and I did for a long time, you think, wow, he's caught that on stage, amazing, what a great picture. Yeah. But actually, it's not live. It's during the rehearsals. And
that's okay because it's still.
Oh no, it's still an amazing picture, but it's not.
It's real. He didn't ask him to do it.
He did.
Oh, did he?
He did. He said, "John, tell me what you think about the prisons." Because it was at San Quentin. It was during while they were doing the San Quentin prison gig.
I didn't know that bit. Right, okay.
So it was pretty much staged, but he did not know what Johnny Cash was going to do.
He didn't ask him to flip the bird. He didn't say...
No, he didn't, yeah. Well, at least I don't think so. I think the story is that he said to him, right, Johnny, we want to do a picture.
Yeah.
I want you to demonstrate to me what you think of the prison system, service.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So it's an incredible picture. But for years, I would look at that picture, way before I was a photographer, and think... wow, that was that's an incredible picture to get on stage, and he's gone and stuck his finger up. But actually, now if you look at the actual picture, you can see crew members behind, kind of fixing drum stalls and things like that. But it's still, I would still love to be there because I would love to have been at that concert.
Yeah,
that concert, San Quentin.
Yeah,
when he sang "Cocaine Blues," which is a very naughty song, but all of the prisoners,
the inmates,
cocaine, murder, guns, woohoo! Yeah, that's where I'd be.
How's your country show going, by the way?
Well, I've only done one so far. Next one's tomorrow. Hang on.
Oh, it would have been last week.
Yes, sorry.
Remember, $10 in your money.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah, it went really well. Thanks very much. Actually, the one I just did is a Johnny Cash intro based.
Yeah,
because. Rob Ward did chastise me for not playing Johnny Cash.
Oh, right. So which Johnny Cash did you play?
Well, I've got a couple of Johnny Cash songs, but I've also got a few. I've got Alabama 3.
Right.
Playing Hello, My Name is Johnny Cash.
Right. Oh, you linked it. Very cool. Clever. Yeah, I like the way you linked it.
God,
you're going to be on Six Music next.
I've got a couple of things going on there. Yeah. So I'm really excited about it.
If you haven't heard it yet, Kev's country show is called Country Boy, aren't you?
Country Boyo.
Country Boyo.
Country Boyo, lad. Get it right.
Boyo. Is on Thursday afternoons at 3:30.
Yeah, incapablestaircase.com.
But you can listen back.
You can.
On iPlayer.
You can.
Not quite iPlayer.
Oh, not on iPlayer. You can listen back, yeah. You can listen back to me bumbling and mumbling. But the music's good. The music's good. I think so anyway.
Yeah.
If you like foot tapping.
Yeah. Right, book time. What have we got?
Okay, so Christopher O'Sullivan emailed me a few weeks back, messaged me on Facebook, and said, I've done a book. Can I send it to you?
Oh, you mentioned that you might mention this.
Yeah. And I thought, yeah, of course. So if any of you are self-publishing and fancy a shout-out, then of course...
Oh, nice idea.
Get in touch with us. Yeah. This one is called The Year the World Stood Still. Yeah. And clearly, it's pretty obvious what it's about. And I'll just read the dedication on the front. This book is dedicated to the brave men and women in the NHS and emergency services for all they did during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think you should change that to all they are doing rather than all they did.
Yeah,
sadly.
Still ongoing.
This book was only made possible with a lot of understanding and patience from my long-suffering wife, Nikki, and a lot of coaxing and help by some very good friends. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a whole load of very different pictures, actually. It's starting kind of sequentially. So the very first image, for example, is a lovely, beautiful sunset, colour sunset, Puddley Lane. As the sun set on 2019, people the world over uttered those same words repeated every year end. Next year has got to be better than this year. There we go. And then And then the mood is set.
I think what we could say about that was, yes, definitely.
As 2020 got underway, the cold grey days of January offered little in the way of photography. Another beautiful long exposure cloud kind of image of across the river.
Also, at that stage, he was taking pictures that he didn't really know what was around the corner. He was just doing what he does.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we kind of move forward to page 13 is where we first start seeing the coronavirus kind of references. The rumours gave way to reluctant facts on the 11th of March. The WHO announced COVID was officially a pandemic. The jokes turned into conspiracy theories, and the laughter at the jokes about Chinese goods not lasting very long became strained. All of a sudden it was here, there and everywhere. And amid cries of, "It's only the flu," and "Oh, off."
What was that? A picture?
So that picture is actually the now infamous coronavirus stay-at-home save lives.
Oh, yes.
And then there's a whole load of pictures of his local town in lockdown and the silence of it. There's some really nice kind of interesting pictures of people speaking to each other through car windows and social distancing and the etiquette that is involved with that. Plenty of pictures of people chatting through windows. Generally the older people. Page 28 is that. This is the thing I'll always remember about COVID, I think. Washing your hands.
Oh, God, yeah.
Page 28 is a picture
within an inch of their lives.
Yeah, somebody washing their hands. Washing your hands up 10 times a day, he says, while singing Happy Birthday was advised.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Happy Birthday.
I do remember at the time thinking, please, the world is looking at our way of dealing with COVID as singing Happy Birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, there's a whole lot more of this, really. It's a really nice memory in terms of the local worlds that Christopher is in. But also I feel like this is one of those books that, you'll pick up, it'll be, on a coffee table or whatever, and hopefully in the not too very distant future, it will be like, oh yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll never look at it and feel a sense of melancholy.
No, absolutely. And there's the VE Days pictures as well. Do you remember that time when...
Yeah. Of course, that whole period. Yeah, of course.
When VE Day came and everybody ignored all the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's really beautiful, actually. A lot of really nice black and whites. Is that the Christmas steps in Bristol? I'm not sure. The Old Bullring Tavern. There we go. So the final picture is another beautiful, beautiful sunset on page 82. Really nice, really nice. Now, I don't know. So, Christopher, you'll have to... I have no idea if this is available, if you will be selling it or whatever.
I was going to say, who's it published through?
It's self-published. So, Chris, I'm going to leave it to you, Christopher, to either message me and we'll put it on the show notes. Yeah. Or feel free to pop it in the Facebook group once this episode is released, and you can tell everybody where they can get it, if they can get it.
Nice idea. And I think, if you're self-publishing, you're doing a project, then do let us know about it.
Yeah.
That'd be
power to the self-publishers.
Absolutely. Helen Fennell has written in this, not so much a question, but something to look at, really, which we'll share the link for. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. As always, thanks for the brilliant work on the podcast. I wanted to share with you a 365 project I followed during 2018. It's by a chap called Malcolm Smith. It's a whole story about Stormy, the Lego Stormtrooper, and his friends. I often look at the Lego figures that we have and think, oh, sure, I could do something with that, but it seems to have been done. But there were sets built of Lego and shoots on location. Story spanned the whole year. It's extremely funny, very, very clever. Look out for Bert the dog. Let me click onto it so you can see it. This is Stormy the Stormtrooper. 2018, there he is. It's lovely. I think, what super little idea.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. The creativity of people is great. There was that guy in your on the Photography Daily who did the miniature photos.
Roy's people.
I was looking at his pictures and I was thinking, bloody hell, that is
completely self-trained,
insanely brilliant.
Came out of it's an idea. he's created works of art that are now in the Saatchi Gallery. For heaven's sakes.
But this is great, the Lego, and of course Lego, those horrible little things you stand on and you scream your head off. But actually,
who left that there?
It's an amazing kids all over the world, love Lego.
You don't have to look too far to find people that have made great photography sites about little Lego people and getting enveloped in their world.
I love that. Stop that one. I love the one there with him, number 49. These are signed. You can get these signed prints by the looks of it.
Well,
the Nirvana. He sat there. The Stormtrooper sat. He's got his helmet off. He sat there with his guitar's Nirvana poster. and he's watching the
Wizard of
Oz
Oz.
on the telly. That's brilliant.
Brilliant.
Where's Bert the dog? We've got to find Bert
the dog. Let's look for Bert the dog. There's a whole year of this, Kev.
There's Chewbacca.
Where's Chewbacca? That's a very good impression, Kev.
Yeah.
That's better than Gemma's impression. See, I'm not doing the growling anymore. Gemma's now turned into an ethereal spirit.
Yeah.
I can't find Bert the dog. No, there's a Jawa. We'll put the link up for you so you can go have a look.
Look at them holding hands. He's got his leg in a crutch.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
There's 4 pages of it.
Yeah,
there's loads of it.
I love it.
A whole year. So this was at 365. Every day he had to build a set, because it looks like mini sets that he's built. He must have had a lot of fun doing this.
BB-8 and the Stormtrooper. No, it's titled BB-8 and the Stormtrooper. So the robot is BB-8 kicking around. Yeah, that's clever. Very, very
even
clever.
though he does bring in a few extra characters, Lego characters, it must have been impossible to think of just Stormtroopers the whole year. Yeah. But they're great, really good, really inventive, lovely idea.
See, that's the kind of thing we should get our kids to do.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
There's a guy also worth looking up called Slinkerchew. Have you heard of Slinkerchew?
I don't think so.
So Slinkerchew is a little bit like Roy's People. I think Slinky might have been there first.
Oh yes, I have seen these. Yeah.
And his photographs, they are all installations.
Yeah.
So he a bit like Roy of Roy's People, who takes small 00 figures for railways and paints them, cuts them up, does different things with their arms and stuff like that, then puts them in situ, takes a photograph of them, makes an installation, and then takes it away again. Slinkerchew actually leaves all his installations out on the street. Yeah. So you'd be wandering around and you think, there's some small little people there and a scene that's being created that has been photographed. Love that one with a butterfly.
I have seen these actually. I've seen them the other day on Facebook. They are incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Really, really good. So Slinkerchew, we'll leave slinkerchew.com.
Where can we do you think we can buy talent like that off Amazon?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's widely available. I like his strapline. Slinkerchew abandoning miniatures since 2006, because that's what he does. He goes out, makes this set, photographs it, that becomes the art that he sells.
Yeah.
And he leaves it there for somebody else to find, which is wonderful. Right, your question.
Very clever. Very, very, very clever.
Thanks, Helen, for bringing that one to our attention as well.
Okay, Wayne Goodman. Apologies if it's been asked before, but thoughts on websites in 2021. In a world where social media seems to be king and Instagram is one of the main go-to places, do you see a website as essential or just beneficial these days? We have spoken about this.
Well, it's essential,
a few
isn't it?
times,
Yeah,
but I think we always come to the same conclusion.
Yeah. Well, let me ask a couple of questions, though, I think go hand in hand with this. Are blogs as essential as they once were? Or is it just SEO Google juice? Do people actually read blogs?
Yeah, I think they do.
Do they?
Yeah, I think they do.
The blog is not dead then?
No, I think the written word is still something that people like to see, and obviously new work and everything. So yeah, I think it's essential. People do things different ways these days, but if anybody finds your work on Instagram, they're still going to hunt down your website to look at more work. I don't think anybody will book you from just by Instagram. Not for, I'm thinking weddings here, maybe commercial and stuff slightly different. But yeah, a website for me, definitely essential. Absolutely. It's like having a shop without a shop window otherwise.
And what's I know you spend quite a lot of time mentoring people on this, so don't give all your secrets away. But when it comes to designing a website, and in particular now, and both of us have leapt across to using Squarespace, are they as wordy as they ever were when you were making WordPress ones? Do you have to have lots of boxes and things that link together, or can they be cleaner these days? Or
well, the principles are the same and always have been the same, really. Easy to navigate and gives the information that people need.
Yeah.
Anything that's over and above that will be seen as spam. So, a lot of repetitive stuff. That's it. But now, this month or May, the Core Web Vitals updates will be coming from Google, and they're going to be penalising sites that are complicated to use, that are over-optimised, that have too many move-in parts on them. Yeah. So all those newspaper websites, I don't know if you've got like a Newbury Echo or something.
Yeah, Newbury Weekly News.
You go to the website and the first thing that happens is it throws a Volvo advert at you. That disappears into the corner. Then it asks you to answer 6 questions before you can read the article. Yeah. And then you scroll down and then it tries to sell you pills. And then at the bottom it says, people of exactly your age need to read this article. All of that they'll all get massively penalised when the core web vital stuff comes. Yeah. So yeah, clean, simple, answer questions. That's it, basically.
So these days, just having yourself on Insta or Facebook is not enough.
Well, I do think it depends a little bit on what you're doing, because if you're super famous, then it will be enough. But if you're not, I still think it's really important.
And be easily searchable.
Yeah.
Findable. Yeah, findable.
Yeah. I think you need Instagram and Facebook. 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 Facebook can f*** off. Instagram and websites, I think, are the important things. They're the two that are important. Yeah, in my mind.
Here's a comment again. Mine seem to be comments at the moment, but it's nice because they make conversation points. From Elliot Thomas. Hi Neil, hi Kev, first time writer into the show. Hello Elliot, nice to meet you. I just wanted to send you a message to say I really appreciate the work you both do on the podcast, and with everything that's going on at the moment, I almost read that as your banal banter, but I don't know why I put a word in there. Your banter really brings a smile to my face. With the prospect of another year like last, I've struggled with my mental health and find photography really helps me. It's something I've talked a lot about Photography Daily, and we've mentioned it, of course, on FujiCast. I do think I had a bit of a wobble last weekend. Kev will tell you this, and what Kev does when he doesn't want me, when he's got a bit fed up of me, he just doesn't respond to a message, and I know that's my cue to say, piss off, Neil.
No, I sometimes go to bed. Because you message me at like 11 p.m. and I might just be going to bed.
What do you mean you don't stay up till like 1 a.m. watching In the Line of Duty like we do?
That's very good at the moment, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, we've gone right back to the start again, and we're sort of watching. We're rerunning to fill in some of the gaps of the storylines. Yeah. But I had a bit of a wobble. I went to go out 2 Saturdays ago. To take a walk to make a story actually for Cargay Collective, and on my way there on the radio I heard the news about the new double mutant, or double mutation, whatever it's called, and I found myself going down into I just descended very rapidly down into a deep dark hole, thinking, God, here we go again. It's endless. And I did find I went out. I almost drove home. I almost turned around. I thought, I can't be bothered with this today. I don't want to make any pictures. I'll just come home and be grumpy for the day. But I did. I went out with the camera. I walked the towpath. I did about 2-3 miles, and by the end of it was like, really important, isn't it? Photography during this period for people.
Yeah, I think so. I find even though I've done absolutely zero of it, of any element, I think it is very cathartic.
Yeah.
And you can just walk and shoot, and generally it kind of associates itself with going out by yourself and just taking time out, and that's important, isn't it? If you can take time out.
Do you find that when you're shooting weddings that I find that it is a time where far from being panicked or worried or running around like a headless chicken, I find that time my heart rate I think goes right down, and my blood pressure certainly comes right down. I feel very much in the zone at weddings.
I've got a new watch.
Oh, I couldn't have one of those things to tell me what my heart's doing.
And it's a Huawei one. My Fitbit just gave up the ghost. Battery life was like 4 hours.
Well, it looks very nice.
It is very good, and battery life is about 12 days.
Blimey, you could cook a dinner in that.
It's brilliant. It's got music on it.
Like a microwave on your arm.
I'm very happy with it.
Yeah,
but it does do the stress level stuff.
Oh no, couldn't have that.
And I didn't think. I thought, because the Fitbit did that as well, and I just thought, no, that's. It's nonsense, absolute nonsense. However, I looked back at my stress analysis. Mm-hmm. No word of a lie, absolutely true as I'm sat here at 3:25 p.m. last Thursday.
God, you can even identify the time.
Yeah, it does it by 5 minutes.
Oh my word.
My stress level, according to this, was at 98. It only goes up to 100. And that was like the last 5 minutes before, as the condemned man, before I pressed to go live on the internet radio.
On the internet radio.
And
wow.
And you could have heard my heartbeat in Cirencester, I'm sure of it. And my phone was like, yeah, he's fucked.
I tell you what, when you do live radio, it is the most nerve-wracking thing
And there's only about 6 people listening to this. I don't know how you did it on the internet, on the international stuff.
It doesn't matter at all, because you're always told. Producers always used to say to you, you know, you're only ever broadcasting to one person. So you're only ever thinking about one person in the room. So it doesn't matter. One person, 12 people, 8 million people. Yeah.
Still terrifying.
You'll get used to it. It becomes a bit like it becomes very addictive, you know, doing live radio.
Yeah,
very addictive.
I am enjoying it.
Yeah. Right, that's it for this week. If you'd like to air this or any of the week's shows, thank you. If you can leave, if you feel it's relevant, a nice review on your podcast player app, that would be fantastic. If you can share the episode on Twitter or Facebook, you are a star. See you in the Facebook group for any questions you have about today's show. Play nice, of course, because Steve and Pete, they're still around. They'll have a word with you if you start misbehaving yourself. No drop the mic pics. If you can, remember, please, to give a little bit of context to your pictures. That would be fantastic. Send your questions. Now, questions-wise, we were talking about this just before we hit the big red button today, really, be as inventive as you can as we head into another season where myself and Kev are in the studio together again. Nice inventive questions, a bit left field would be fantastic. Send them into the Facebook page. You're keeping the Facebook thread going with that, aren't you?
Yep.
Or you can write in the old-fangled way. Click at FujiCast.co.uk. Music from Blue Wednesday, supporting music from the incredible artlist.io, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.